Let's talk about a curious feeling. The
Okay.
30 years later, what are your impression about a curious feeling? Do you consider it age gracefully?
I think it's aged good. I mean, it's a difficult one. I'm sort of right in the middle of this, so I can't sort of, my criticisms aren't really worth very much, I'm very subjective, my viewpoint. But I've always liked the album a lot, and it's sort of one of the things of all the things I've done in my career, both with and without Genesis, is one of the things I'm most proud of. So I wanted to go back to it, having been involved in all the remixes we've done of Genesis stuff recently. I knew that this particular album could benefit a great deal from the remixing, because I didn't think it actually sounded quite as good in the early days as Genesis albums. And it was also from a period which we managed to do, and then there were Three and Duke, the albums immediately on either side of it, improved a great deal, I think, with the remixes, at least they did to my ears. So I wanted to go back to it and just get it to sound as good as I possibly could. I just wanted it to be, that's the version out there. I mean, it's, and I feel it stands up. It's one of those things. It's quite a, it's like Island in the Darkness. It's a kind of, it's a kind of story. It has a beginning and an end, and it sort of goes through lots of different moods. And it's excuse for quite a lot of quite ambitious instrumental moments in it as well. So it was, I listened to it it's one of the few things I can still listen to that I've ever done all the way through and still enjoy the whole thing without feeling I'd like to change anything particularly. Because it is a period piece, but it sounds good.
They say on the press release that the sound is more dynamic. What does it mean exactly?
Well, it just has more ups and downs in it, I suppose. You get the quiet bits quieter and the louder bits louder, and you can, because the whole thing is brighter. And one of the big things I wanted to change on the album was the sound of the drums, which on the original were kind of a bit small, and because the particular engineer I was working with at the time was perhaps more keen on that kind of sound, and coming back to it again, I was able to get the sound that's actually on tape, because I recorded it. I used it. The drums were recorded. Some of the drums, at least, were recorded in a live room in the studio I used, which was in Stockholm, Polar Studio, which is ABBA's studio. We did Duke there after doing this album, and you can get a nice big drum sound out of it, and it was sounded great on the tape, and so it was just to go back to it. It was very easy to remix and to make it sound a lot better.
Do we hear more the keyboard in the rear?
Well, there's a lot of keyboards on it anyhow. Everything just sounds a bit clearer, I think. It's just difficult to know how, you get more spread. And obviously there is a version which is available of it, the deluxe version, which is a surround sound mix, 5.1 mix of it. And on that, obviously, everything's separated out even more. So it's a nice way to hear all the parts more sort of individually and everything. And I think it sounds really nice. So it's one of those things. I've got a body of work out there, and I want to make certain that the versions that are out there of everything, is as good as possible, really, because it's what I do. And I'm a musician, and I have the albums. I just want them to sound as good as possible. And I was a little dissatisfied with the way it sounded before.
What's your favorite song on this album, on A Curious Feeling?
It's a difficult one, this really, because I do think of it very much as a whole. But my favourite piece of music is probably the piece I call "The Waters of Lethe," which is an instrumental piece.
Yeah.
It has a kind of a climax in it that I think is, one of the strongest sort of melodic moments I've written. So I kind of, I have a very soft spot for it, really. But I like all the songs. I think that, I think it's the instrumental bits kind of. I don't know. I feel closer to the instrumental moments, I suppose. But of all the songs, I think "Somebody Else's Dream" is perhaps the one I like the best, just because it's got an intensity about it that appeals to me, and I like the heavy drums and everything.
Yeah, it's a good one. Can you just tell me? I'm not sure if I know this one. Maybe I know, but I don't know. What were the singles that were out of it? Were out of A Curious Feeling at the time?
The single we released. We released one single in England, which was the song "For a While."
Okay.
We released twice in England, and I think that over here we've released it again as a single, just so it might get a bit of radio play or something. But
nice.
It's it's the most obvious single on the album. I think it's a song I'm proud of, and I think if it had been a Genesis song, it might well have been a hit. That's the way I see it. It's just that it's more difficult to to judge it as a Tony Banks thing.
Yeah, some people, myself too, were really thinking that A Curious Feeling should have been a single. It would have been a good. I don't know.
Well, the song itself, the song, that obviously is the other obvious one in a way. Really, I don't sort of have a problem with that. It's just I think for a while I just think it's a slightly stronger piece of music,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
it has slightly more representative of the album as a whole, because it's got a little bit more emotion in it, you know.
Yeah.
And so that's from my point of view. But I mean, I'm happy with any song off the album, really. It's just sort of, you know, it's an album that's close to me, and probably of the things I've done with Genesis, it's obviously much less well known than anything I've done with Genesis, and yet people who like things that I've done, particularly things like One for the Vine or Afterglow and all those sort of things, it sort of fits in with that kind of style of writing, and I think people like that, who like those songs could enjoy it.